there's a lot of people. Bob Hawke was one of, the first people. It was, you hate to bring up Harvey Weinstein at this point.
No,
it would have been different if you did this podcast a few weeks ago. But, the people that were really there at the beginning for him, and it was the Sundance Film Festival, and it was the Angelica Festival, and the cast of Clerks, and Bob Hawke. And Kevin was nice enough to just be like, hey, I want to help have this story told because I owe my career to Bob. And, let's honor Bob's career. And like you said, you never really heard of Bob. And so, really that was the point of the film. We used to say, like, no one would watch a documentary about Spielberg, which is funny because now there's a big one on HBO. But, like, his story, and he's great. No, you don't need to watch that to know, like, he did E.T. and Indiana Jones. Like, all this stuff. And I'm not, busting on him. I haven't seen the film, but I'm sure it's amazing. But somebody like Bob, you have these stories that you don't know, and people that love independent film should see this story. And you can see it on iTunes and TribecaShortlist.com.
It's funny you say that, and my favorite documentary in the last 5 years is actually a little-known Netflix documentary about voice acting. So, This Is Your Voice, which is one of my favorite documentaries in the last 5 years because it is the behind-the-scenes that people don't know. And I love stuff like that.
Exactly.
I absolutely love it. And I will say this, and you say that Bob Hawke started with Kevin, and I told this story, I think, on our pilot, and I'll say it here again. Kevin...
Well, Kevin started with Bob Hawke.
Yeah, you know what I meant. What I was saying, though, was me here, though, and I said this in our pilot, and I'll say it here because I'm hoping with people that are on the show that Kevin hears this. He's one of the reasons I'm even here holding a microphone. Because if it wasn't for Kevin on his podcast, when he always on his podcast, I think it was when he was doing the tour of Jay and Bob going around the country, and he kept saying, do a podcast, got a microphone, you could talk about everything. That was 5 years ago. And I'm sitting here doing this. And it's all because Kevin, kind of one of those people that said, you could do a podcast. Anyone can do a podcast. And here we are. So I lived this for him. And that's why I would love to talk to him on this show. One of those things. So
Sure.
He's the reason
I'm
here.
And I certainly can't speak for him, but I'm sure he would, as he's appeared on other podcasts. And, he loves those types of stories. He had people that inspired him, like Richard Linklater and such. And there's now a huge generation with you and me and many others that are just inspired from his work and continue his legacy. Like now with the Bob Hawke story, it's a huge part of Kevin. Like if you were to make a documentary on Kevin, which somebody eventually will, Bob Hawke would play a big part of that.
It's true. It's very, very
at
true.
Sundance, and this is on YouTube. Someone did tape it. Kevin says about Film Hawk, this is a documentary that I should have made. And Ty and I are in the audience like, this is awesome.
That's fantastic. What I might do...
But it would have been totally different.
What I might do, actually, I'll find that audio, and maybe I'll play it at the end of this so people can hear that, because that sounds like Kevin having a lot of fun. So, and, well, that being said, we kind of keep our shows short for people that are listening in the morning after the show drops out, but... Thank you so much, JJ. This was a lot of fun. This is actually a nice education, really, in history when it comes to the movie world, which I do like learning about little by little. I do appreciate coming on and doing this. Give us one more plug where they can find you, where they can find the film. Go for it.
Go to Twitter, @BobHawkDoc. @BobHawkDoc. We're on Facebook, too. Just look up Film Hawk. But, we see all the tweets. Ty and I run it. And Kevin retweets on us and stuff. And, Bob Hawke Doc. And you can see the film on iTunes or the TribecaShortlist.com.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me on. I love talking about Film Hawk.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a really lot of fun. I appreciate everything.
Absolutely. Thank you, man.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all for listening. And like I said at the beginning of the show, this was kind of a dull minute, which is why I set up that interview. I figured... let's have something different today and end our week with a nice interview talking about Bob Hawke and a documentary that links into Clerks. So I hope you enjoyed that. And Thank you all for listening. We're a part of the Feeling Joy Podcast Network. You can find it everywhere. I'm not going to do the whole list today. It's been a long day for me. So find us on Patreon, where you're currently talking about the Clerks cartoon, and get our shirts over at TeePublic, and more. Facebook group, the Facebook Clerks. The Clerks convenience store community. We have a lot of fun over there. We're going to be talking about movies, and I'll be plugging this there so you can actually watch this documentary. I know I'm going to go out my way. I'm going to watch this doc. It sounds like a lot of fun. So till then, I'm Blake. Thank you so much for listening to the Clerks Minute. Hello everyone and welcome to Clerks Minute, the show where we look back and break down the 1994 Kevin Smith classic, one cat and litter box minute at a time. I'm Blake. Kyle is off today, but I have a very special guest on the line, all the way from the UK, from Shooting Clerks. It's Chris Bain. Chris, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm very good. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem at all. Thank you for taking time out. I know the time difference is a pain in the butt for us, so it works out nicely here.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. It's all
yes.
good.
So we are here to not only talk to Chris about Shooting Clerks, but also to look at minute number 27 of Clerks, which starts with Dante on the phone trying to find out about the article about Caitlin's engagement, and we see a cat in a litter box. And we end with Jay talking about his cousin, the metal singer, that wants to move to the big city to be a metal singer. What a weird transition that is in one sentence. So first things first, I go to you, Chris. What is your history with this movie?
With Shooting Clerks. Okay, so a very micro history, because it's a long story. I met Chris Downey, the writer-director, a good few years ago. He was making a short film about focusing on Jason Mewes' drug addiction when he was addicted to heroin. And one of the stories where he tried to stave off his heroin addiction by looking for a very rare Star Wars chase action figure, the Greedo doll. So he needed someone to play Jason Mewes, and I wasn't really an actor at the time. I did it here or there, kind of more of a hobby than anything else. So I met him, we did that. You know, we did okay with that, and then he said, I'm going to make a feature, do you want to play Jay in the feature? And I was like, yeah. And then that's really it. That's how I got involved in Shooting Clerks.
Wow, that is actually really cool. What's it like to play a character like Jay, who's almost like a cartoon character of his own right in the real world?
Yeah, he is a little bit. You know, he's certainly very cartoonish in Clerks and the other Kevin Smith films that he's played. Jay, you know, it's certainly a lot of it is part of him, I guess, but it's definitely an exaggeration of his actual self. But it's a very fun character to play. You know, I loved playing Jay, especially in Shooting Clerks. I just thought he was a really fun character to play. The thing that was difficult is that I was playing a real person as well. So, you know, I had to try and make it funny, make it memorable, that you know, Kevin and Jason fans would recognize it as Jason Mewes, but also make the character real, you know, and you know, make him an actual person as opposed to a caricature. So it was certainly difficult in parts. You know, I certainly found I had a lot of trouble perfecting the accent, as you can tell, because I don't sound American at all. But his accent is very distinctive at that, so that was quite challenging. But I think overall I really enjoyed playing the character, and because I've played him over a few shorts in the feature, and I've done it over quite a few years, I feel that the character is kind of stuck with me a little bit more than other characters that I've played.
It is funny because you do have the heavy accent, and I'm actually from New Jersey, so yeah. I know the Jersey accent. There's just it's a different tone than most states, so it had to be a weird transition to go from your heavy UK accent to a Jersey accent. Yeah,
I mean, there's a couple of actors on set when we were doing the shoot, when we were doing Shooting Clerks, we shot over a period of a few months, and we actually shot in near Dundee in Scotland. That's where the sets were. like the Quick Stop and RST video, Kevin's childhood home and things like that. Predominantly the cast were British, so there was a couple of guys who found the accent challenging, would stay in character or at least stay with the same accent for a lot of the shoot. I didn't have the same difficulty in that respect, but I would usually, there would always be a few lines I would do before a take to get into character. But I'd spent a lot of time studying Jason and his mannerisms, the way that he speaks, the way he holds himself. I think I listened to pretty much every podcast that he and Kevin had recorded. Just to, especially for the voice, of course, with the podcast, all you're hearing is audio. So that was very helpful with his accent, although his voice has changed from what it was when I play him in Shooting Clerks as to what it is now. But, there was, I must have went through a period of maybe 3 to 6 months where I was just trying to perfect my depiction of him. But yeah, certainly I found the accent pretty challenging, but I got to the stage when we were doing the shoot that I was pretty comfortable with it, and I think the film's being received fairly well, and I think my performance has been given, people have been pretty kind about it, so I think hopefully I've done a good enough job. That
sounds awesome. Who played Kevin on the other half of you?
That was an actor called Mark Frost.
Oh, very cool. I actually do want to see this movie. It's one of those things where it's on my list and I have to see it.
Yeah.
That's the problem with being in Milwaukee. I didn't get to see a screening, Yeah,
well, we've had a couple of screenings in Jersey. I wasn't at the one in August this year, just gone. I was actually shooting a TV show here in the UK, and I had a play that I was doing for 3 weeks. So I was really busy and I couldn't get away, unfortunately. But we had the screening last November in Jersey, in the theatre where Kevin used to watch movies growing up, which was really cool. And we had a lot of the Clerks guys there. We had people like Brian O'Halloran, Scott Schiaffo, Ernie O'Donnell. We had loads of them there, which was great. And the film it's been, as I say, we've only had preview screenings. We've had one in Edinburgh, where I'm from, at the Edinburgh Comic Con, and all the other screenings have been in the States, and it's been pretty well received so far. So yeah, I think there's going to be a few more preview screenings, and we're hopeful that the film will be released soon. I don't really know when, but hopefully maybe before the end of the year.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I'm looking at Wikipedia, and there's still no date. The closest I have is like July 8th or something like that of this year, but that doesn't seem right either.
Yeah, it's definitely not out yet, but it's I think they're working on something, so hopefully it'll be released soon, because I've done a lot of productions, and I've been fortunate that I've been cast in a lot of different things, but Shooting Clerks is certainly a film that I'm very passionate about, and I'm really proud of it as well. I think it's a really great story, and I think what Chris and Brett and Ryan and everyone who's worked on it has done is quite remarkable. To shoot an indie feature film with a very small budget, with a cast of, I don't know, maybe 50, maybe 60 people over 2 continents, and which is essentially a period film as well. So they've really achieved the unachievable almost. But it's a film that I'm really proud of, and I think it's something that I hope everyone does get to see at some point, because I think, objectively speaking, taking away that I'm in it, I genuinely think it's a really great piece of cinema.
It's funny. You just said a 90s base is a period film, and that made me feel a little old.
Well, I was born in 1987, so yeah, I'm not like a spring chicken myself, but essentially it is now like a period film. Essentially you couldn't really shoot it with, I guess, sets and costumes from now, because it would look off. So I guess in the sort of loosest sense, it is kind of a period film, Yeah,
it's just funny. It's just pretty funny. I was born in '82, so.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
not
for
much
me,
difference.
Yeah, it's just because I actually watched this movie on Clerks itself on a VHS tape. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, what's your history with the actual movie Clerks itself? Are you a fan of the movie? Are you a fan of the View Through universe?
I am now. massive Kevin Smith fan now. But I mean, again, that would have all been because I just spent a lot of time